Okay, awesome. Well, we have a follow-up video needed here for Kristy's trim. She took the advice that I gave her and Linda gave her and went and did a trim and took new pictures. And I had quite a few things I wanted to mention, so it's just easier for me to say it than to try to take the time to download all the pictures and make the markups on them and then write it all out. So here we go. This is the before shot. Note this area in here, okay? Here's the other before shot. So there's that area there. This confirms my suspicions big time. So I made a comment here. Okay, so alrighty. This is a majorly bound up foot here. Exactly like I thought it looked like from the sole, because everything was smushed in, right? When the back is all smushed halfway up the front of the width of the foot, when you look at the solar view of the foot, you know more than likely this foot is bound. So, we start doing tact and we start straightening up the foot. So the front part is trying to straighten up, and then as you go back, you got lines laying down, because what happens is this part smushes forward and this part smushes backward, right? This is going backward and this is still smushed forward. So what do you get? You get a nice little arch right here, because there's no place for this foot to go. It's buckled right here. It's buckling. So this is huge. You have got to get going on the back of your foot. And also, when you trim, this is big. You got to go from here across to here and take this out. You measure your 2 inches from the hairline to here, which is probably like somewhere in here maybe. And you got to flatten that off. Because what's happening is, if you can learn to look for where your leverage points are on your foot, you'll learn to know where to take the leverage off. So imagine the foot trying to move back. Imagine this is a movable item here that is pliable at all times, because it is. So we want this to be able to move back and stretch out. We want this to stretch and this to stand up and move back. So this right here is stopping that right here. This is your leverage point right here. So you think of a door and you're going to plane off the bottom of your door because your door is catching on the floor. That's what's going on with your hoof wall. This is catching on the ground and it's stopping everything. So people think, oh, my foot's going to just stand up. Well, maybe it'll just stand up, but I find it to be a lot more helpful if you aid it a lot more directly by continually releasing the leverage points in the foot. So I would definitely be taking this off. Now, if you want to learn how to do that and how much to take off right here, this was a big thing for me that Linda kept telling me for 2 years, to take more off here, and I just could not see it. And then one night I was sleeping and I was shown this idea of taking a string and drawing a straight line from the pillar mapping point, or the toe quarters mapping point, over here somewhere, to the heel mapping point, which is probably over here somewhere. And I took the string and I'd stretch it from the heel spot that I'm supposed to map to and file to, right over to the toe quarters spot. And I held it and did a straight line with a piece of string. So I put a dot there, I put a dot there, and it's hard to see your dot on your heels. You just have to you have to pick up the foot, measure your 2 inches from hairline to top of buttress, and then you can kind of go a little onto the side of the hoof wall with your marker. So when your horse puts the foot back down again, you can see where that spot is. And then you hold one side of the string right here with your finger, and then like your thumb, and then this is like with your pinky. So you kind of stretch it out across the foot, and then you just color below here with a Sharpie. Color everything below the line with a Sharpie. Then you'll know how much to file off when the foot's flipped up. The problem a lot of times with trimming is when you flip the foot upside down, you can't really see what you're doing as much. And it's hard to know how much you're taking off. So that string method is on my YouTube channel. You can find it. It's another video. Oh, I don't know if that's in with the hoof video playlist. I have to make sure it's over there. But it's called the string method. You'll see it. It's a really short video. So I recommend that for a while that you start doing some string mapping right in here, because this right here, you can plainly see, plainly see that you should plane some off. Ha, funny play on words. Okay, so, I'm just looking at the front and seeing it's a little bit archy, which is kind of like, DSLD type feet. So, club-footed type feet. So you gotta really be careful here. I don't know what these feet look like before you started trimming them, but maybe you've improved them greatly, because I'm just, I'm jumping in with you now, but that's definitely a concern. We want to make sure that we get this part expanding back and relieve some pressure so the back of the foot can basically come back to about here, right? We got to grow back to about here. This is how much is missing in that foot. And it's going to stand up and improve your levels a lot better too, or your angles. Okay, so let's go to the next picture. Okay, so this is your rear picture. I'm still seeing a flap right here and a flap right here. I don't see that you took that out. So this right here and this right here, you need to trim that out, because I'm pretty sure that's the flap. When you flip your foot up the other way, that's your flap. Also, this is a really difficult surface to take pictures on, because it's all pebbly and it's not, it's not level. So it might be level, like, overall, but it's got bumps, and see how it's up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. So if you can find some place that's really straight across to take your rear pictures on, that would be really helpful. But anyway, I see this, and then I don't see a nice little new piece of frog here. I see the old, as Linda calls it, petrified frog right in here. So you want to cut that little groove out there, because what's happening is this is your Fort Knox. Here's your gate, and it is shut. Your horse's heels need to come apart right here and allow the anatomy that got pulled down inside underneath the frog to be able to come back out. And it can't. It can't come out. So you have to help it mechanically to be able to come out, because your foot grew this because it didn't have the proper anatomy anymore, and it had to hold itself together. So it said, well, I'm going to make a Band-Aid so that my foot can stay together. So that's what it did. So we got to take that out of there. And somebody wanted me to do a video of that. I'll have to do that. I will get that done. Okay, so here's your flap right here and right here, laying over top of the periopal. Do you see that? I always trim that down to a bare frog. You'll see when you go in there from the side and just kind of start slicing that out, you can basically pretty much just trim those things right off, I have found. One time I drew blood, trimming my horse's frog last summer, because my knife was really sharp, and had a new knife, and I trimmed in here, and I went a little too low, and it started bleeding right in here. So you have to be careful, but you can start off conservatively, just trim it out. And I went below the flap. That's why it started to bleed a little bit. Just bled for a couple minutes, and then it was just a tiny little peck. So be a little careful if you have a fresh sharp knife. And then in here, I'm sorry, my cat is sitting on the keyboard. Kitty on keyboard. I'll get him off. Kitty on keyboard. We don't need kitty on keyboard. Okay, kitty on keyboard. Okay. So, yes, Geppetto, you can come sit on my lap. Okay, come here. All right. Okay. So, this, you want to open this up. There's a little crack there. That's your clue on where to cut. So, when this flap is gone, it will release the bulbs and release this area so it can widen up and allow what's sucked underneath. Because it's like, think of it like Linda says, it's like a spool. And this is all curved underneath and needs to be able to unfurl and open up. And then this will come back here, and you'll have a lot more foot in the back. Because what's happening is your buttress is growing from here your buttress will start growing from like here, you know, because this anatomy will come out, and the anatomy that is curled under will come out and start. Sorry, cat on phone. Okay, he's down now. All right. So that's curled down inside can curl out, and then the true buttress can actually grow down from the sole. Because what happens is the rest of the foot got turned down inside, curved down inside underneath the frog. So we have to open the gate so that can come back out. Otherwise, it'll just bind up your foot. No matter what you do to the front of your foot, it'll just stay bound up, and your back will never really fully restore, as Linda found when we hit some roadblocks for about 2 years. And then she finally figured out the key, because everybody started binding up their feet. We were like trimming and all this great stuff, but then suddenly everybody's foot kind of started to get bound up. And then Linda is the only person I know of in the entire world that has discovered this information and figured out how to really get past that barrier. So it's absolutely phenomenal what she has discovered. So I said this video was going to be short, didn't I? Ha! Okay, so here, another thing I want to talk about, which is why I decided to do the video. Your seat of the corn area. Okay, this foot is really run forward. What that will cause is it will cause you to have false heels, because this isn't really the buttress. This is really hoof wall that the bar attached to. But oh my gosh, did you do a good job on the bars? Holy Hannah, girlfriend, way to go! And look at all the sole. Magnificent job on the sole as well. Really good job. Okay, so this part here, you can take more off right here and more off right here. So what I do is I measure my 2 inches from the bottom of the hairline up to here, which is probably right about here. And then I file this really flat right in here. And I file this flat to the sole, because Linda tells me to. So this area should be, well, I don't know. I think she says an eighth of an inch, right? So no more than an eighth of an inch higher than the sole. So I file it down to about an eighth of an inch higher than the sole. And if I've got a foot like yours that's really run forward, I'm very aggressive with the quarters. I might file them almost flat, but it's hard to get them flat. I mean, you can try, but I mean, it's you can file the crap out of them and they're still going to be a little above the sole, I have found, because the frog's in the way. So you can't really get a flat angle anyway. So I don't know, maybe she can. She probably trims more off than I do on the frog, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of hard to over trim the quarters. I feel like it's not a huge worry of mine, but I mean, I pay attention. So what I'm doing, I don't just like blatantly just file the crap out of them, but I'm just saying it's an area where you can be pretty aggressive, and you can bevel them too, because that's a little bit easier sometimes to get at them, because sometimes the frog's in the way. Especially with feet that don't have the full sole that's grown up yet. And so all this stuff's kind of not anatomically correct yet. So you want to cut this out here with your knife and carve this. See where your bar's attaching, where your bar was attaching, right in here. Okay, you could take a little bit more out right in here, because what that's going to do is that's going to guide your bar back. So now your bar's attaching right here, right? And it's too far forward. It's way too far forward. We know that. It's because the back of your foot is completely smushed forward. So we want to encourage this bar to come back so that it'll eventually attach to the buttress and not the wall. And so we're going to walk it back with the knife. So every time you trim, if you start getting this little hooded action, what's happening is it's kind of like curving. And you'll see it when you pick up the foot, it'll be like wanting to curve, making a little overhang here over top of the sole. And that's because the heel is laying down and your foot is smushed forward. So we want to really alleviate that. And so to do that, you got to be really aggressive right in here. And you got to take your knife and you kind of carve out right in here in your seat of the corn with your bar, which Linda just taught me recently how much more I could take off right here on a clubbed foot horse I'm working on that she helped me on. And I even didn't know I could take off more than I thought right in here. So she's like really picky about this part, because that really helps release the bar so it can come back. So you can definitely get rid of this little hooded part here. All this part right here, this should just look flat to your hand when you pick it up. In the photograph, it's hard for me to tell how flat it is, but I can definitely tell. You got something going forward there. You got something looks it's a little forward here, a little bit long still here. This is kind of going out to the side. And why is that going out to the side? Because it got left too long. So instead of standing up straight, it collapses and it expands out. This happens to my gelding all the time. Very common, just so you know. I mean, these things happen to everybody's horses. But so the key is to just keep on them. So like with a horse like this, I would be filing his feet probably every week. Before every time I ride him, if I'm riding that horse, I would definitely trim before every time I ride and probably touch this up, every week to 2 weeks at the most, because I find that it really helps. All the horses actually I've been doing lately, in the summer months, seems like they need a full trim in 2 weeks. I don't really know how other people go longer. And yes, sometimes I get a good spot and I can get away with going longer than that. But if I'm in the process of correcting something super out of anatomically correctness, like the back of your horse's foot is, I find it helps everything to stay back if I keep filing it before it gets to run forward. Otherwise, you're just correcting what just happened and going back to the same starting point again and again and again, and you don't really get ahead of it. So I would just say be really diligent with those heels at this point in time. And then this, I saw your new comment. You were wondering about the pillars. Well, I don't know. Let me look at your other picture. I don't think you have another view. This is your before again. We're back to the before shot. But let's look at the before. Okay, let's look at how much you took off. Good job. You took all the square stuff off. Let's go back and see where you're at. Okay, that's flipped. Let me download that quick so I can flip it to the other way. And let's see what it looks like when we compare them. Let's compare them side by side. That'll be fun. Let's do that. Okay, let's go get it and flip it around. I do this all the time when I want to see something. This is another thing I do all the time. I make compilation pictures, so I put them next to each other. I'm addicted to making compilation pictures. It's like my total addiction. What I do all the time. Oh, I can't see my normal there. I'm like, where's my menu? My menu for the Zoom meeting is in the way. Okay, rotate. Here we go. Okay, let's rotate this puppy. And then let's go get your other picture back up again. And bring that one down. Oops, wrong picture. Well, I still need that. There we go. Bring that down over here. And really download it. Okay. Oh, whoops. Hold on a minute. Why is this picture here? Get the other one. Okay, here we go. Side by side fun time. All right. So, really good job. Really, really look at the difference in one trim that you did. That's amazing. I don't know if you did anything here though. Let's double check the flap thing. I don't see anything happening here. And that is key. You have got to get that flap out of there, right there. That whole thing. You just trim that down to nice, healthy new frog. And then you cut a little groove right here to open it up. And then I think you might have trimmed this off because I don't see that sticking out, but I can't tell from this picture. I don't know what's going on with that in my way, but look at how this was way up here. Okay, so the bar right here looks like it attaches right at the tip of the part that's flared out. Now it looks like it attaches, oh, actually in about the same spot. Okay, looks like it attaches in about the same spot. So right here, I still see a nubbins right here. So you can go back and take more of this out right here so that it is more in a line with here up to the apex of your frog. Because you want it to be at the tip of the, you want to line up with this and then to the frog. So all that needs to be gone away. So I can still see there's some right there. So you want to carve that out with your, this is key, absolutely key. If you do not get this, the foot will stay exactly how it is. It won't work. The bars will just keep pushing everything forward. So you got to clean that out from this side and carve that down some more till the flap is gone and you are down to the clean sole underneath that flap. This is bar that's flapped over top of the sole. This is not sole, that is bar, and it's a big flap of bar that doesn't belong there. Let's look at the other side. Wow, what an amazing difference you made over there. Wow, 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 wow. Amazing, good job. Really good job. I wonder how hard that was for you to do. So, okay, well, this still attaches kind of up here. I would get rid of this too. It's still a little flappy right here. So I take a little bit more out right in here. Keep carving down till you're down to about here with the tip of it. I'm going to put my mouse on something hard. Doesn't want to move. Okay, there. That's better. Yeah, so, and then I'll usually try to carve that a little bit straight too. So like right here, I would carve that so it's a little straight. Yeah, and get a little bit more of that flap off there. And like I said, flatten this out a little bit more with the file right there. It doesn't look like you filed barely anything down there at all. And this is really long. If I go from here to here, I highly doubt that's only 2 inches high. Are you mapping this from the bottom right here where the hairline hits the back of the periopal up to the top of the buttress? From the back of the hairline up to the top of the buttress. I would be surprised, maybe, but your 2 inch mark is probably right in here. And so you can file this back. You want to think of bringing the foot back. And to bring the foot back, you can cheat a little bit by filing that heel, you know, very precisely back to that 2 inch mark. And maybe even a teeny bit under 2 inches if you have a small horse or plenty of growth right here from the bottom of the collateral groove to the top of the collateral groove. You can get away with sometimes pulling it back a little bit more than that. And Linda says sometimes you can do what she calls a heel reset, where you can be a little bit more aggressive with the heels. And I totally agree with horses that are really run forward with the heels. Just do the most aggressive thing you think you can to set the heel at a set point that's farther back on the foot, without totally taking away the heel. This horse has heels that are too long, not too short. So you don't have to worry about that as much. So that's it. Now the apex, I didn't talk about that very much in the last video. I think you talked about it though in yours. So you knew to look at the apex and trim the apex to the sole. So don't know if you did on this one or not, but you can always check on that. There's a little bit more scale here. You can keep continuing to flick that off too with the subsequent trims. You could even do it tomorrow. Just pick that up and flick all this off right here, this scalpy stuff. You can flick some of that off, but really, really, really good job you did. And look at, this whole thing is gone. There's like so much sole over top and so much bar over top. You got like a whole second layer and you just got that whole thing gone. Wow, really good job. So fix this here, take this flap out, and take a little bit more off your quarters and give me another side shot. I'd like to see another side shot, okay? Okay. Oh, pillars. Wait, we're going to talk about that. Okay, I would take more off here. Right here, still a little square. I would bevel from the front. Because you've got the blood here, I wouldn't want to make my horse sore. So if it were me, I would put my file, the 90-degree angle, and file back right here with a bevel situation. And same right here. And sometimes I also take a little from the top too, because I'm thinking about length as well as bringing it back in. So yeah, just a little bit more, maybe a little bit more right there. And then someone talked about your crack right there. Well, that crack happened because there's so much leverage right here. It pulled your foot apart right there. So you imagine when you're walking with feet like this, that would be the same thing as putting on Donald Duck shoes and then walking with them. So it wants to create a ton of leverage in the toe. So yeah, just a little bit more right there. It looks like to me like you would definitely have some ways to go there. That gives a little head start, so you got a little bit of room for everything to drop down and grow without having to be filed again in like 2 days. So, okay, sounds good. We'll wait for your next picture.